today. How many of you guys like football? Like football? Teenage girls, Amari, what's your favorite team? You like football? Well, this right here is a former professional football player. Played in the NFL. But he made a decision that Jesus was still the answer. And so he put Christ first. So he drove 3.5 hours down here just to speak to us and tell us his story. So we're going to give him our undivided attention. Oh, my daughter is running across the front of the Okay. We're going to give him our undivided attention.
First, I want to thank you guys for having me. Springfield, the brothers and sisters of Springfield, has always been like a second family to me. Brother Chad, Kelly's, and everybody else has always been showing much love and respect for me throughout my youth and throughout my childhood growing up. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'll tell you a little bit about my experiences growing up right around when I was at you guys' ages, and then my most recent experiences, and then I'll open it up for questions, which I gotta promise me y'all gonna pay attention, all right? All right, I got me? All right, so a little bit about me. I grew up, like Brother Kelly said, about 3.5 hours north of here in a city called Jackson, Michigan. And I grew up in a big family with 10 kids. How many of y'all got brothers and sisters? Who got the most? Who got more than 3? Who got more than 5? Who got more than 7? Who has 10? Who has more than 10? Who has 12? Who has more than 12? How many? How many? 14, so I didn't have that many. But all right, let's draw back in. So I grew up in a family with 10 kids, right? It was 7 boys. I'm the 5th out of 7 boys, and it was 3 girls. And my father had it so that all of us as young boys were very, 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 very competitive. When you grow up with 4 or 5 older brothers and sisters, you be fighting for breakfast, you be fighting over everything, you wrestling, everything is a competition. And so out of that came sports. My dad was a director at a rec center, and it was very, very, basketball and football was just like everything for us growing up as kids. And so I applied myself. My dad was a coach. I applied myself, academically. I applied myself athletically. And so much that I got to high school. And when I got to high school, I began to blossom and I began to become a very good athlete, a very good football player. Well, my dad was teaching us hard work, competition, dedication, get good grades. My mother, on the other hand, was and still is a huge woman of faith. My mother was teaching us about what is called Bible salvation. And it's the same thing that you guys are learning. In short, it's just that Jesus is the answer. That's something she instilled in us, and that's something she taught us from a very, very young age. And so, as I was growing up, as a young boy, I wanted to do the sports thing. I knew that Jesus was the answer, but I kind of didn't want that answer right away. So I grew up, I went on to college. I played Division I football at Michigan State University. Whoever here know about Michigan State? Okay, so who knows about Ohio State? Okay, we beat them. Once, they beat us 3 times. So I grow up and I'm playing at this big. Jackson is a smaller city similar to Springfield, but I'm coming from this small city into this big environment, right? And as I go into this big environment, right, I begin to grow and I begin to experience some things, right? You get a little older, you want to nibble and dabble with your friends, you want to do a lot of things really kind of contrary to what my mom and dad had taught me back at home. And so I go on and I'm playing college football, and I end up playing very well towards the end of my college collegiate career, and I get the privilege to be drafted into the National Football League about 4 years ago. In 2019, I'm drafted in the 4th round. I go to the Indianapolis Colts. And so I'm living, I'm young. I come from environment is probably a lot similar to a lot of you guys. The neighborhood I grew up in was a lot of challenges, right? A lot of fighting, a lot of shooting, a lot of gangs, a lot of decisions that I had to choose whether I was going to partake in, similar to a lot of the things that you guys are going to have to choose if you're not at that age already. But I chose not to involve myself in those things. And I chose to, go to school, and I figured I'd listen to my parents. I'd be, somewhat decent, somewhat of a good person. So I'm going to the NFL. I played my first year. I made some decisions in life that I promised myself. I did some things I promised myself I never would do. And I'm going on. The next thing I know, that upbringing, anybody in here ever heard of a praying mother? You heard of a praying mother? Raise your hand. If you got a mom that pray for you, raise your hand.
Amen.
You are extremely, extremely blessed. It is extremely, extremely rare to have somebody praying for you. Because when I went away to school, and I went away off into the world, and I was doing whatever I wanted to, my mother was still praying for me. And I knew that she was still praying for me. I had praying sisters as well, and brothers, etc. But I knew they were praying for me. And as a result of them praying for me, I was kind of going and doing my own thing. God had came a little over 2 years ago, and He convicted my heart. And basically what He said was that although you're in the NFL, right, you made it out, quote unquote, the hood, or your little neighborhood, or whatever you want to call it, you're doing your thing, you're making your little money, right? People kind of knowing your name, you're a rookie, you're starting national stage, playing good ball. He said, you know what the answer really, really is, right? And the answer, He came in and told me Jesus is the answer. But the way that God kind of set it up was that I have to choose Him, right? He's not going to force Himself upon me. And so what I ended up doing a little bit over 2 years ago, I obtained Bible salvation and I got saved. So Jesus came into my life, into my heart. He said, son, I'm the answer. And as a young man that kind of had it all going on at the time, I kind of was like hesitant about choosing them, but I'm glad that I did. So fast forward. So I'm still in the NFL when I get saved just a little over 2 years ago. And I go out play another season. But I know that, Jesus is the answer. But I still kind of have my plans, my goals, the things that I want to do for my life. I have kind of my own answers, really. Honestly, I thought that, since I know Jesus is the answer, I'm going to play until I'm 30. And once I'm 30, I have made enough money that I can live off of for the rest of my life. I'm not 30, by the way. I make as much money that I can live off of for the rest of my life, and then I'll use the rest of my life to serve God. That was my mentality. That was my answer. Well, God had different answers. He had different plans. In my third year of the NFL, this is my third year in it, I've been starting. I'm a starter in the NFL for 3 years. I'm dealing and wrestling within myself about what my future looks like and what God's future looks like for me. Because God had begun to reveal to me that He had different plans than what I had for myself. And so I had to decide, right? Do I accept, even though I already know that He's the answer, do I accept His plans for my life, or do I continue to kind of do my own little thing? So God really basically revealed to me this story in the Bible. This was called the rich young ruler. And this rich young ruler basically was a guy that was in my scenario. He was a young guy, he was a successful guy, he was saved, he was doing everything right, so to speak. And he went and asked God, he said, God, I'm lacking something. See, if you don't choose Jesus as the answer 100%, it does not matter how much money you have, how much fame you have, how many friends you have, you're going to be lacking something. And I found myself saved, but I was lacking something. And so I began to ask God, and I began to ask Jesus, is you really the answer? Help me with this lack. And He pointed me to the rich young ruler. When he came, basically the story is the guy comes up, he's rich, he's young, he's got it all going on, so to speak, he's saved as well. And he comes up to Jesus and he said, what am I lacking? What am I missing? What am I missing? And Jesus goes and He tells him, He says, sell all that you have and give to the poor. Basically, you need to sell out. And when Jesus told him that, he went away sorrowful. And so basically, when Jesus was telling me that if I tell you the answer, will you go away sorrowful? And so here I am, once again, young man, successful, making a bunch of money, in line to get a lot more money than I ever could have dreamed of. And then God comes and says, okay, son, it's time. You got to drop this. It's time to move on to something different. And so once He made that clear to me, I dropped it, right? About a month ago, I retired, right? 26 years old, I said, you know what? This stuff, this life, all this stuff is cool. This football stuff is cool. I understand you get it, you make some money, stuff like that. But Jesus is the answer.
Amen.
And He has a plan for my life. and I'm going to choose that plan. So I'm going to challenge you all, right? I need all eyes for 1 minute. God has a plan for your life. Jesus has a plan for your life. As you get a little older, as you experience things, right? Life is going to happen, but you're going to get the opportunity to choose, right? God made you special. He made you a lot different than he made the animals, right? The animals don't get to, the dog don't get to choose what it gets to say, really where it gets to go, what it gets to do, to act off instinct. But you get to choose. And I want to strongly encourage you, choose Jesus, because Jesus is the answer, right? Regardless of football player, NFL, rich, businessman, whatever you want to call it, you're going to come to a point in your life where you have to decide, what plan am I going to take? Am I going to trust my own plan? Am I going to trust the devil's plan? Am I going to trust the world's plan? Am I going to trust Jesus' plan? So long story short, after my third year in the National Football League, in the prime of my career, I saw fit to walk away because I found something far greater, something far better, much more joy, much more excitement, much more purpose. It's been about a month and a half since I've been retired, and it's been the best month and a half of my life. I've been free, I've been able to talk to kids, I've been able to grow, I've been able to learn, I've been able to fulfill purpose, to fulfill my purpose in life. So I found it to be true that what they're teaching you here at VBS, that Jesus is the answer. So as you grow up, just keep that in mind and remember, you'll get in a spot where you have questions. And any question you have, you'll be able to say, just like I can, that Jesus is the answer. So I'll open up for questions now. Bruce, if you have anything. Thank you.